So Sefer Netzach Yisrael discusses Klal Yisrael's eternity, the nitzchias of Klal Yisrael. The Maharal over here writes, you'll see, if you look at this page, I want you to focus on this middle column. We'll start from here, then we'll work backwards a little. That middle column. Ubilam, underlined. Ubilam haya boichen Yisrael. Bilam was evaluating. A bechina means testing. Bechina, boichen. Bilam was testing and seeing Klal Yisrael and describing Klal Yisrael mitzad amitas tzuroson asher boi nimtzu Yisrael bepoil. What makes Bilam Harosha's brachas and his description of Klal Yisrael unique is because there is no other Navi, not even Moshe Rabbeinu, v'zois habracha shebeirach Moshe, not even Yaakov Avinu gave brachas, whose brachas, says the Maharal, were like the brachas of Bilam Harosha. No one in the history of the world ever was mishabeach, praised Bnei Yisrael the way Bilam did. Look what he says. Bilam, I'm going to start from this part, then we'll go backwards and then forwards. Bilam ayabaychin Yisrael mitzad amitas tzurasam, their essence of who they are. Asher by nimtzu Yisrael bepoil. Klal Yisrael not just bekoyach in their potential, but Klal Yisrael in their full glory. V'lechein hayameid al amitas Yisrael yoser mikol. Therefore, he was made on the true essence of Klal Yisrael more than anyone. He was not connected. He was completely an outsider. This v'zeh shegarim she'nevuas Bilam ha'Yisrael hakol l'toiva. That's why it was all good. Shoye nevuas Bilam hakol l'toiva kasher hafech hakadosh baruch hu hakol libracha shoye rotze lekalem v'nehepach libracha. The last three words in this underline, librachos she'ein kemoisam. Never amongst anyone who ever benched Klal Yisrael, ever benched Klal Yisrael, birchoisoi, his brachas, she'ein kamoisam. One of the brachas,
up to then or
always, before, after. So why taka? Says the Maharal. So this is part of the shtickle of the Maharal, how Bilam was able to do it, and how did this happen. So let's go back to the first column now. The Maharal begins, we're going to do the sort of bits and pieces in the time that we have allotted, but just get the general yisoid. Hadover sheyivchan mizulosoi. When someone on the outside evaluates something, when you want to have a real, if you want to, as an accountant, you want to see what the company's doing, you don't ask the company accountant to tell you what's going on. Yeah, he knows what's going on, but he has negias. They take an outside company who does a forensic research. You have to be someone who has no negias to be able to describe exactly what's going on. Eidus, says the Maharal, cannot come from any relatives. Because if they're too close, then they won't be able to accurately describe what's going on. But look what he says, a very fascinating svara. When a dover is yivchan mezulasei, from someone on the outside, we don't have one for Reb Shol. Reb Shol, Kim sitz mit mir, be my shittif. For a poor minute. Schman chaver. Asher lo yipol boi sofek. Va'adover azeh oidia lo Torah semes. Asher posol le'edas kroivim. That kroivim are posol le'edas. Ve'einatam epnei shemeyed sheker. I don't want you to think, says the Maharal, just because they made sheker. Ki loy nechshad Moshe lohayed the dover she'enoi va'aron shiyalam o emes. Moshe and Aaron are apostle for Eidos, and they're not because they're not going to say the truth. Rak mipnei she'ein Eidos rak mizulosoi. The dover zeh is bar b'tiferes Yisrael. The Maharal says a yisoid, which is a tifi yisoid, and he says it's chochma amuka. But when someone's part of something, so then they're not capable of giving us the eidos ba'asher husham to identify the thing in its entirety and its completeness. You have to be an outsider to be able to do that. Memela says the Maharal, when Yaakov and Moshe gave brachas, so as part of Klal Yisrael, they gave a bracha to the rest of Klal Yisrael. But that means they only gave a bracha to a chelik of Klal Yisrael. They didn't give a bracha to themselves, they gave a bracha to others. So therefore, their bracha was a certain limitation. When Bilam Rasha talks about Klal Yisrael and benches Klal, he wants to curse them. He doesn't love us, forget, fakert, but the Eibusher doesn't let him. So when he benches Klal Yisrael, when he describes Klal Yisrael as an outsider, he's able to see the entire picture. As a matter of fact, one of the things it says in the brachas of Bilam Arasha is that there will come a time when the Malachim will ask Klal Yisrael, Ma po'al keil. Let me find you the Lashon inside. Ke'es yo'imer li Yaakov. V'li Yisrael, ma po'al keil. Ke'es explains Rashi. Ke'es hazois. Like this time. Oid osed liyos ke'es kazois. There shall be a time like this. Asher tigla chiboson le'ein koil. When the love that the Eibishter has for Klal Yisrael will become revealed. Bilam says it's happening now because I'm trying to curse them. As you probably know, the famous Gemara in few places and the Medrash that the Rabbi Nisham gets angry every day. Ki rega biyapoy. The Gemara says every day the Rabbi Nisham gets angry. How long? Rega. How long is a rega, says the Gemara? Rega kememre. The amount of time it takes to say the word rega, that's the amount he's angry. The Gemara says that Bilam knew that time, and he wanted to curse Klal Yisrael at that moment. Asks Tosfos, what would he say? He would say one word, Kaleim, right, wipe them out. That's what he would say, just wipe them out. The Gemara says Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi had an apikoros that bothered him terribly. And the Gemara says that when the crop of the rooster turns, I think it's white, completely white, from red to white, that's that moment. The Gemara says it turns white all the time. No, it doesn't turn completely white. There's one time when it comes totally white. So he tied the chicken to his bed and waited. So at that moment when it would happen, he would deal with this person who was bothering him terribly. The Gemara says he fell asleep. He was surprised. How could he fall asleep? Zogter Shma Mino, to curse out somebody, even if he's bothering you, is something which you shouldn't do. When a dover ra comes to somebody else, even if you might think it's legitimate, and even if Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Sinishta get the zach. Bilam knew when that time was. But throughout the entire Tkufa that Bilam was trying to curse Klal Yisrael, the Bais Medrash Ohr never got angry, which means that Bilam saw chiboson. He saw how beloved Klal Yisrael was to the Eibishter. That it's shayach that the Eibishter, thanks to Klal Yisrael, would never even for a moment get angry. Now, that's not Klal Yisrael today. That's not Klal Yisrael through the generations, because we have Chesroinus. What Bilam was seeing, says the Maharal, was Amitas Yisrael, the Madreg of Klal Yisrael, which it says, Bereishis Bishvil Yisrael Shenikra Reishis, Ki Meiroish Tsurim Erena. I see them in their glory from the beginning, how strong they are, and what they're going to be like at the end. So listen to this lashon of Rashi. Ka'et, like this time of Chiba, Odiezman Kazeh, there's going to be another time. Ka'ez azoy zashetigale, v'tavchin le'ein koil. Do you know what that means? You know what that's going to look like? Shehen yoshvin lefonov. The Klal Yisrael will be sitting right in front of the Eibishter. V'loimdim Torah mipiv. And they're going to be learning straight from Hashem. Umichitzoson lifnim mamlach hasharis. And where Klal Yisrael will be stationed, will have by the Eibishter box seats, all the way down on the floor. The Malachim will be sitting behind us. HaMechitza shel Klal Yisrael, our preferred seats are right there. The Haim and the Malachim Yish'alu Lahem will be asking Klal Yisrael, Ma Poyal Keil. Vos is the Rabbi Shalom doing? Meaning, we're not going to have to ask the Malachim what's going on. Throughout the Tkufa of the Nevi'im, the Navi was visited by a vision, sometimes by a Malach. And the Malach would tell the Navi what the Eibishter wanted. That was his job. Zolstavisin, the Madrei, it's going to be afuch. It's going to be reversed. The Ka'et, like this time of Chiba that I'm experiencing now, says Bilam, Ya'omer will be a time in the future. Ya'omer liYaakov v'liyisrael ma poyal kevos tutze Eibishter.
He says when? He says when this is going to be?
What's that?
He says when it's going to be?
Lost Lavoi. Says the Maharal,
What's the question? What is Eibishter doing when?
And
general?
Yes, the Klal Yisrael will have privy to the information ahead of Malachim. The Malachim will have, you know what it says? It means expression Yiddish, medaf unkimen siyenem. You know what that means? You need. That's right. Till now, we have to come on to others because we're not on our Madrega Mitis. But when we get to our Madrega Mitis, then everybody has to come on to us. That's our Madrega. Says the Maharal that Bilam, who was looking to find fault in Klal Yisrael and looking for the Eibishter to get angry at Klal Yisrael, witnessed firsthand the Chiba and how great Klal Yisrael potentially is. He saw them for what they really, that's called Mitas Madregosa. So take a look at what he says. That Vilakach, he says, he brings down a Medrash, Medrash. Kishabirach bilam es Yisrael hayakoylo hoylach samach mil kemachne Yisrael. They heard Bilam's brachas.
The Malachim.
Bnei Yisrael. Fascinating. As I state in the Medrash, Yalkut Shimoini. Kishabilam birach bilam es Yisrael hayakoylo hoylach samach mil kemachne Yisrael. V'gedoyla bracha shabirach bilam es Yisrael. You see where I'm reading from, Rabbi Isai? Me bracha shabirach Yaakov es hashvatim, me bracha shabirach Moshe es hashvatim. Greater was the bracha that Bilam had gebenched Klal Yisrael, bigger than Yaakov and bigger than Moshe Rabbeinu. Kishabirach Yaakov es hashvatim, oichiach es Reuven v'Shimon es Levi. When he gave brachas to them, but Reuven, Shimon, and Levi were told off. Our brachas bilam ein behem toichacha ve'ein behem pagam. Like they say, it's all good. He was only able to see the good. Which, look at the next line of the Maharal. V'lefichach, it's underlined. Gova da shel Yisrael ubolidei takola be'etzem bilam. Their guard was lowered. Maybe it affected them. You say it's supposed to stay third show. The brachas themselves were a siba that Klal Yisrael should be mitgoeh, and then lower their standards, and that's how Bilam was able. Unfortunately, they maybe l'dei takala. So this idea that Klal Yisrael v'hein adram shalamalo ki ma sham shaykoy l'shisha mil neged machne zo ma shalohoye k'shabirach Moshe v'zem epnei ki brachas Bilam ha-brachas ois bepoyel yoser. Like he said earlier, these brachas were brachas of how Klal Yisrael was in their highest madrega, and he was an outside. Now, go ahead to page 2. Let's just see on the other side. There were 3 instances that Bilam was given an opportunity to curse, and 3 instances that instead of cursing were brachas. Says the Maharal, the cheshbon of the 3 are as follows, and I have it underlined. V'yadua, he says, underlined on page 2, Ki kol davar ba'olam mischalek el shloisha chalakim, shein zeh k'may zeh. Everything in this world has a beginning, an end. If it's the beginning, it's not the middle. If it's the end, it's not the middle. Like the word emes, aleph, mem, tuf, a beginning, a middle, and an end. 3 components: the haschola, the umfang, the beginning, the soif, uma be'emtza. The 3 brachas, the 3 sections of Bilam's brachas represented every part of Klal Yisrael. So when Bilam begins, right, the ein sofik ki bechina mitzad aschalosoi, the bechina of Klal Yisrael as their unfang, as the beginning, zulas bechina mitzad hashleimosoi, is excluded from their shleimos, from the middle madrega. V'shneim zulas bechinas bechelik, the beginning, and the end, and the middle one has this chelik emtzoi. It's not a far stretch to say, like Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, we have Gimel Regolim. And when the donkey smashed his foot against the wall, he says, Sholosh Pa'amim. And Chazal say it's Keneged, Klal Yisrael is Gimel Regolim, and everybody's scratching their head. For something Gimel Regolim Tzatan. The teretz is his 3 brachas represent the Gimel Regolim. Pesach, the unfang of Klal Yisrael; Sukkot, the soif, the hashlam of Klal Yisrael; and Shavuos, the etzem Klal Yisrael. That Keneged these 3. Vada, it's like that. And that's why in the first bracha he talks about Avram, he talks about the others, Kimei Roish Tzurim Erena. The Maharal speaks about that. Next paragraph, in bold letters, is a little star. Ube Medrash, Kimei Roish Tzurim Erena. Shala'idicha Sinasei Shalaisei Rasha. Shemetoich Berchas Hatidei Machshavaisa. From his brachas you know his Machshavas. V'lamu Udoyim La'odam Shabalakas Etza'ilan. Like a person wants to chop down a tree. He comes, how's he going to chop down a tree? He's going to take off a branch. He's not going to get the tree off. You know what he does when he wants to chop off a tree? He goes to the bottom of the tree, goes to the roots, and chops it off over there. This way he can pull out the tree. So too when Bilam HaRasha wants to wipe out Klal Yisrael, you think he's going to take off a branch over here, a branch over there? Of course not. He goes straight to the roots. Who are the roots of Klal Yisrael? The Avos HaKadoshim. That's who the roots are. So therefore, he just works hard, but he doesn't have anything. But on the other hand, the Rosh says, Mani mekala kol shevet. Hareni hoylech l'sharoshim v'koitzet. Let me uproot them. Like bali yageya umotzon koshim. V'lakach nami ki meirosh tzurim arenom. Elo ha'ovais. Those say Chazal referring to the ovais. Like it says, Abitu la'avram tzur chutzavtem. The bedrock of Klal Yisrael is so fast. Right? Avram Avinu is tzur. He's like the tzur, comes chiseled out of stone. So Bilam sees them, and Bilam says, I can't touch them. He can't touch them. He sees that Klal Yisrael mitzad ha'aschola is fast. He tries to curse them again. He sees how they're oisik and Torah, how they're connected. He can't do it. He sees mitzad their soif, what's going to be with them eventually. They're lefnim malachim. So Mikol HaBechinas in all sides, as he tries to break Klal Yisrael down and find some type of fault in Klal Yisrael, et treft garnish. He doesn't find anything wrong. This is what Chazal teach us, that no one ever benched Klal Yisrael, never were there brachas for Klal Yisrael like Bilam's brachas. La'asid lavoi, when Mashiach is going to come, and Klal Yisrael will come to a shleimus, we don't chap how great Klal Yisrael will become, because we don't understand what's inside of us. There were 2 times in Jewish history where Klal Yisrael shined on a madrega she'en kamoisam. One was on Har Sinai. Vayichen sham Yisrael neged ahar ki ish echad b'leiv echad. Chazal say, Reb Tzadok and others say, right after they defeated Amalek, after they were machlish as Amalek, then they went to be Makabel Torah. And the madrega was Nasav and Ishma, like Malachim, Mi Gila Rozeh Lebonai. They were mamish speaking like Malachim. And Klal Yisrael was Makabel the Torah. For 600,000 people to be able to be camped together, and the Torah can call them Vayichen Ki Ish Echad B'leiv Echad, was an amazing madrega. And Yena madrega was the brought Torah to Klal Yisrael. Zolstevisin, Klal Yisrael did it again. When Esther Amalka said, Lech Knois Kol HaYehudim, right then, Klal Yisrael was Mesyache together and Zoiche to the Madrega that they had Mechias Amalek Nochamo. They wiped out Haman and his kids. They killed 75,000 of them. They killed 75,000. They were able to kill Asher Yishlu to HaYehudim Hema B'Soinem. Uvosik Yeshei Nochdem Kimu V'Kiblu. They got Torah again. They got the schus to build Bais Sheni. Which that schus, if not for Chashmonai Yubanim, like I heard from my Rabbi many times, if not for that Bais Sheni, could have been Bais Shlishi. Klal Yisrael could have been Zoicha if, after beating the Greeks, Malchus Chashmonai, the Kohanim, would have given the Malchus back to Beis David. Klal Yisrael could have got to the Madrega to being Mitukan, and Bais Sheni could have morphed into Bais Shlishi, and we would have saved this whole Golus of Eden. But they didn't do it. They held on to the Malchus, and there's nobody left from Chashmonaim. Call me Sho'imim Chashmonai Ano. Those great Chashmonaim who brought victory to Klal Yisrael, they're all avodim, because they didn't do the ultimate job, which was to hand over the Malchus back. Lo Yosser Shevet Mihuda. They didn't do it. But Klal Yisrael had gotten, thanks to Lech Kenois Kal HaYehudim, through Esther, and through, the Gemara says, Gedoyla Hasara HaTabas, Haman's taking off the ring from Achashverosh to him. Yoisim and Memches Nevi'im v'Zayin Nevi'as. Klal Yisrael was zoicha to get to a madrega of Kimu v'Kiblu. Klal Yisrael got to such a madrega. Nobody ever got them that such a madrega. That's what Haman and Russia did. And La'osid Lovei, Klal Yisrael is going to come back to a madrega of Achdus in such a way that will be zoicha to all the Tabayah Shlishi. Who we are and what we look like on our conscious self is so far away from the reality of what Klal Yisrael really is, mitzad amitas tzurasam. You want to know what Klal Yisrael really is? Listen to this week's Parshas Kriyas HaTorah. Look at this week's Parshas Kriyas HaTorah. Read it in Lashon HaKodesh, in English. Learn it. The Maharal is teaching us that no one ever chapped. You know what they say? You got him? Did you get it? Hast verstanden? No one hat verstanden Klal Yisrael afil lefi amitas tzurasam. The madrega Klal Yisrael lazoivi bilam harasha. He was the outsider. His forensic trying to destroy Klal Yisrael came up with what? The geresta madrega from Klal Yisrael. How high Klal Yisrael is. But afilu Moshe v'Aaron, says the Maharal, even they were not able to bench and were not able to chap Klal Yisrael the way Bilam was. Because fakert, look how much he tried to destroy. But every chelik of destruction was fakert, the givein atikun. So Maharal Shiur zayin Be'ezus Hashem bekarev mamish, to be zeicha to yena madregas that Bilam talks about in this week's Parsha. Every single one of us, Be'ezus Hashem, if we're meyachet together the way Klal Yisrael was, vayichen sham neged ahar, k'nois kol haYehudim, that metaka zeicha zayin bekarev and see Klal Yisrael the way never before.